Crucial operations in the south are in jeopardy. We are all now well aware of the situation and will fight until the last man is left standing. We face several difficult hours ahead. Enormous casualties have weakened our fighting power. The Moscow radio station broadcast yesterday that the 298th and 299th Infantry Divisions were destroyed near Zwiehel. Nothing more than wishful thinking. It's not over yet. Did we not just beat you by 5 hours in reaching the Sluts River? Is that your reason for barking into the microphone? You guys could barely run fast enough. We'll teach you how to run, but in the opposite direction. Unbelievable. Our tired bunch is ordered to rest for a few days in a neighbouring village. This good news has caught us by surprise. It's about time. The casualties would otherwise be great. The 22nd of July, 1941. We move into the village in separate groups this morning. It has been severely destroyed from our artillery fire. All that remain of its original inhabitants can be found on 4 or 5 farms at most. They stand in front of their cottages with curiosity rather than anger in their faces. Perhaps they just have good self-control. They must be curious about what will happen next. Our first mission is to split up and search for food. Min Bon was very lucky. He found a pack of mahorka. The good soul is standing out on the side of the road, handing it out to us. Everybody gets a small portion. We sit down and start to split some old newspapers. Some pull the Schweißlappen out of their boots. Soon the entire first platoon is steaming like a train station. This mahorka is really bad stuff, though since all we've been smoking these past few days is grass, leaves and all kinds of herbs, it tastes like the best Italian tobacco. We set up camp on a meadow on the outskirts of the village. We pitch our tents and dig foxholes for cover. The wandering plumber store, guys who are responsible for all of the pots, pans and cooking equipment, are relieved of their precious load. Frying and cooking takes place soon thereafter. After eating, we just sit around, staring into the evening sky, not worrying about the front line at all. No one will ever know how it all started. Out of the blue, someone starts singing a song in a clear tenor voice. All of a sudden it gets so quiet that Min Bon's cigarette slips out of his mouth. Others start singing along, and soon the whole bunch is singing. Some just sit with their arms around their knees. Others lie on their backs using their arms under their heads as pillows. The singing becomes louder and louder. Brave little soldier's wife, we will come home soon. The song My Home Stands in the Most Beautiful Meadow starts up after a short pause and everyone is singing. Workers, farmers, teachers and businessmen are all singing together. They have all become comrades in their grey uniforms. With their steel helmets and in the face of death, they sing this melancholy song line by line and with devotion. They fill each line with their longing for peace, tranquility, their wives and kids. They do not have their own words for the emotions that dominate their spirits. It is awkward for them to express their emotions, which is why they sing a song about the house or valley where they were born. There is a gorgeous sky full of stars above me. Those same stars are also right now above my house in Westhausen. Are you thinking of me, my dear Roselle? After about 10 hours of quality sleep, I get up to take a close look around the village. Groups of refugees, mostly women and children, arrive from all directions. They had been hiding out in the surrounding woods. The men of the village were forced to fight for the Reds and have fallen dead in their houses and on the streets. There are shocking scenes everywhere we turn. Women are looking for their dead husbands and brothers. Children are finding the torn-apart bodies of their fathers. Horrible images. A woman with an infant in her arms tries to pull the dead body of her husband into an old foxhole in order to bury him. An elderly couple is seated at the corner of a house. The old man is hunched over, dead. The babushka leans against her husband, her eyes fixated on the horror surrounding them. Their sons and grandsons lie inside the house in large black pools of blood. She has lost her voice, and her soul is forever dead. A little further away, a group of about 20 comrades lie mowed down from machine gun fire. 2 dead fighters gripped in a deadly man-against-man fight lie dead in the neighbouring garden. The Red is still grasping onto his bayonet in his rigid hand. Gauging from the wound, he had stabbed the German in the neck. The Red's head is swollen. The German's hands are still clinched around the neck of the Russian like iron clamps. I know all too well the horror of man fighting against man. We are unable to separate all the bodies, so both friend and foe are buried together. In hole after hole we bury 21 of our best comrades. 58 Russians are buried in a mass grave. The heat is unbearable. The stench of decay is disgusting. We hold handkerchiefs in front of our faces to protect ourselves from it. We have to use force to pull the women and children away from their dead relatives. The risk of infection is also very high. My knees are weak on our way back home. Is it because of the brutal heat or the horrific images? The 24th of July. Alternating periods of sun and rain showers. It is like a greenhouse in the swamps, and we must take quinine tablets to prevent the spread of malaria. After weeks of continuous exhaustion, many symptoms start to take effect during this time of rest. One comrade has nerve fever. During the attacks, he jumps up, shoots about, and tries to attack the Reds, but there aren't any. The poor devil is going to be transported further to the rear this afternoon. Most, however, are suffering from serious intestinal diseases. I am one of them. But this is nothing in comparison to the bloody battles fought during this past week. We are so deeply thankful for having this chance to rest. The 25th of July. One could wallow in self-glorification after all the laudatory speeches we've heard. Your admirable accomplishments will find their place in history. Your bravery is unprecedented. And so on. It goes like this the entire day. The commander of the division, the commander of the corps, and Field Marshal Reichenau, all of them have suddenly taken us into their hearts. We have been promised French wine, champagne, chocolate, cigarettes, and sardines. Poor old stomach. How will you cope with all of these delicacies? Well, at least we are happy. However, we have done nothing more than our duty. The 26th of July. We receive good news from the front. The Russians are retreating to Korostan, all while desperately trying to fight. The 27th of July. Our days of rest are over. We are advancing to Kiev. The 28th of July. Zhytomyr fell after severe street battles. Occasionally Russian tanks advance in order to give cover to the retreating Bolsheviks. Russian fighters and bombers are making our lives miserable. Our convoys are repeatedly rewarding their targets. The red masses pull back to Kiev, which is apparently heavily fortified. Once again, there's going to be difficult urban combat. 29. The 30th of July. We advance kilometre after kilometre under light artillery fire and minor infantry fights. The 31st of July. We take a short break 40 kilometres past Zhytomyr. The same subject dominates our conversations. When will this campaign be over? Someone spread a rumour that we will be dismissed after this mess. What an immature religious belief. First, I think that the Russian campaign will last much longer. Second, does anyone believe that glorious veteran fighters like us will be sent home to search for fishing worms in their gardens? We shall see if I am not right on at least one of these points. The 1st of August, 1941. We stop in a small pine forest with a tiny lake. As we will be here for a few hours, we peel our sweaty uniforms from our bodies and jump into the pea-warm, dirty water. But this joy is short-lived. Ratas suddenly appear and hammer quite a few rounds over our heads. Right at the beginning of the attack, a hand grenade kills one of our own. What a damn mess. Wet as dogs, we quickly put our clothes back on and take cover under the trees. Just in time, 10 Martin bombers appear soon after. All of a sudden, there are smoke trails, soon followed by detonations. God damn it, we are very lucky. When the yellow smoke clears, we can see that exactly where our camp would have been is now covered with craters from the shelling. The Russian fighters are unpleasantly active these days. We had a bad surprise yesterday afternoon. 3 heavy aircraft flew over us at an extremely low altitude. Since they did not fire, we didn't pay much attention. Shortly after, we hear wild machine gun fire to our rear. A team of scouts, including myself, is assembled to go back and see what is going on. As we reach the edge of the forest, we see a group of about 15 civilians running like mad onto a bridge. Suddenly, something whistles above our heads. We throw ourselves to the ground, and simultaneously 5 or 6 hand grenades explode with a deafening bang just a few meters away from us. In short bursts, we sprint from cover to cover in order to approach the group. With great effort, we manage to cut off access to the bridge for this ferocious firing group. We find the big surprise in the meadow: parachutes. Russian soldiers in civilian clothes had jumped from the aircraft with order to destroy this important bridge. What a lucky coincidence that we caught them and prevented the bridge assault at the last minute. Their boxes full of dynamite would have been enough to destroy an entire city neighborhood. One of the paratroopers has unfortunately managed to escape. A burst from his machine gun killed one of our comrades and seriously wounded another. The 2nd of August. It is not much further to Kiev. We see it on the map and are able to feel it from the desperate resistance we encounter. We are only able to make slow progress. The first line of bunkers lies in front of us. Apparently, there are a dozen or more lines of various fortifications past that. Bunkers, minefields, swamps, automatic flamethrower traps, and who knows what else. Difficult hours and days are ahead of us, but we have become so stubborn that nothing is able to shock us anymore. We no longer care about the crashing blows, the low hum of bombs dropping from aircraft, and the chirping of machine gun bursts. Life on the front has made me a fatalist. Now everything is up to fate. How else could we carry on? Shells have ploughed our lines. The ground was propelled into the air just a few meters in front of me. A shower of glowing hot shrapnel rains down on us. Comrades to the left and right have been torn apart. My uniform is splattered with their blood. The blow throws me on my back, yet I am not hurt. Fate. If I've made it all right through the hell of Zwiehel with its 1,000 dead, then things will go well in the future. The 3rd of August. It is our wedding anniversary, dear Roselle. Do you still remember this? One evening we were sitting outside in the garden at Hausen. It was also August 3rd, and your stupid husband had completely forgotten that it was our anniversary. I could really tell how upset you were about my mistake. Here it is again, August 3rd, a day of non-stop fighting and casualties. Yet I remember our wedding anniversary. I thank fate for allowing our paths to cross and making you, my darling, my wife and the mother of our beloved Erica. Please God, let me return home safely so that I can make up for my mistake and still have time to catch up on everything. Despite fierce resistance, we managed to break through enemy lines in the evening. We are making good progress. The 4th of August. We are now about 15 kilometers from Kiev. The Weta line is before us and is fortified with all the bells and whistles. 3 well-performed attacks are knocked off by the Russians. Indeed, that is not the way to do it. It appears that there are problems at HQ as things are not going as planned. There are changes in the command structure and a few generals are exchanged. The number of casualties is just not in balance with our success. I really do not like this shit. The 5th of August. We are digging in. There is heavy artillery fire all day long. Under the cover of night, we are able to get closer to the line of bunkers. Thank goodness everything goes well and without much notice by the enemy. We take position without much fighting in the Gluacha forest at about midnight. Everything must be dug into the ground by morning. The bunker cannons and the Caucasian snipers snub out anyone who can be seen in the daylight. The 6th of August. Heavy fire starts as expected around 5 a.m. I am sitting in B position and am able to see our impending doom as no one else can. The sap is right at the edge of the forest. From here, the terrain slopes gently down to the Weta River. That damn river looks like it will drink a lot of blood. Behind the river is an enormous anti-tank trench filled with barbed wire. Well-camouflaged bunkers line the trench. The firing is coming from them. Death is rolling toward us. A crushing wall of fire crawls slowly, very slowly, up the hill. These Schweine shoot with a precision that could have only been learned through intensive training. Halfway up the hill, the firewall now reaches a tree-covered farmhouse. Cracking and splintering is heard when tree branches, wooden beams and bricks go swirling through the air. The stinking firewall moves on. Do not lose your nerves now, Hannes. I estimate that death will be arriving any minute now. Everybody has been warned. We claw our fingers into the dirt. We have sweat on our forehead out of fear. God, if we were at least able to defend ourselves. And then all hell breaks loose. There is a howling, an enormous roar, thundering, cracking, and the humming of thousands of splinters. Foul-smelling smoke floods into our trenches. Did this last seconds or minutes? I cannot say. I pull my nose carefully out of the dirt to see that the firewall has moved on. I remain deaf for minutes. There is something wet on my face. Blood. Thank goodness it is just a scratch. Our position is in chaos. The tree trunks we used for cover have been torn to shreds. Portions of the trenches have been filled back up with dirt. One position received a direct hit. 2 comrades were killed and 3 were wounded. Overall, we are lucky. It could have gone worse. This afternoon, artillery is brought into position in the forest to our rear. There are many cannons in addition to some mammoth calibers, which are probably mortars that will be used here for the very first time. The new cannons are hidden from view of us soldiers. Nightfalls and single shells are fired toward the enemy positions. One could call it a trial run. It is nice that our barbarians are letting us hear something from them. We receive orders to attack tomorrow at around 11 p.m. My God, that is going to be tough. And to be honest, I am sick of it. The 7th of August. Officers are standing next to the long-barrel cannons, howitzers, mortars and grenade launchers. They pressure the crews by staring at their wristwatches. The shorthand is going in circles. The final minute has just started. It seems to have no end. Hundreds of barrels spit their deadly loads into the sky. Howitzers, mortars and large-caliber long-barrel cannons begin their work. There is thundering and howling as death races toward the saps, bunkers, cannon positions, machine gun nests and trenches. Our artillery hammers down on the Veta fortifications for 30 minutes. We switch to the attack at exactly 5:10 a.m. Like many times before, we work hand in hand with the Sturmpioneren and the Flammenwerfer. Against our expectations, everything went excellently. The entire attack unfolded as if it were on the training field in Ohrdruf. Within an hour, we are under the cover of the anti-tank trench on the banks of the Veta down from the wildly flaming bunkers. Our grenades fly through the bunker openings. Loads of explosives and flamethrowers polish them off. Surprise. 3 bunkers have been cleaned out and a nice breach has been opened after just 2 hours. Now how does that sound? My dear gentlemen, we shit a great deal in our pants during this nice scene from Wochenschau. Quite a few have thrown their arms into the air, did an about-face, such an awkward movement, and fallen down stiff on the banks of the Veta River. And by the way, we attacked the bunkers dressed as Adam. I wonder if these red officer whores were decent enough to cover their eyes with their hands. Either way, it was necessary because of the mud in the river. What did the sergeant used to say? I can determine a soldier's character from the state of his uniform. Yes, dear Phipps, come to us and tell us about your states. Maybe you could fetch the clothes of the brave soldiers from the other side of the river. You see, we honoured your wishes and spared our clothes. We miss your grovelling speeches. We roll up Russian positions one after another. The hill across the Veta is firmly in our hands by the afternoon. Only the village of Pochtawacha and the bridge are still occupied by the enemy. It has been planned to take the bridge in a swift action, since it is crucial for our motorized units. This time it is someone else's job to attempt this risky undertaking. We'll provide the fire protection. These guys go in forcefully. By nightfall, the bridge and village are cleansed of enemies. We are in charge of guarding the bridge after midnight. This is not without danger, since the Russians are placing well-targeted fire onto the bridge and village. Finally, after a few hours, we are relieved and take positions to guard the northern exit. Pochtawacha is in flames. We hear the crackling of the fires. Cows are bellowing somewhere out in the distance. They must be trapped in their barn and are burning alive. The wind drives thick clouds of smoke toward us. A trail of smoke is over the entire village. The fire glows red. The heat takes our breath away. Every other house is on fire. The cracking of rounds left behind by the Russians can be heard among the sizzling and crackling. We climb over hot debris. The wall of a house collapses nearby. Wounded soldiers are being carried past us. The fires light up a Red Cross flag. The singing of an airplane is above our heads. And fallen down stiff on the banks of the Veta River. And by the way, we attacked the bunkers dressed as Adam. I wonder if these red officer whores were decent enough to cover their eyes with their hands. Either way, it was necessary because of the mud in the river. What did the sergeant used to say? I can determine a soldier's character from the state of his uniform. Yes, dear Phipps, come to us and tell us about your states. Maybe you could fetch the clothes of the brave soldiers from the other side of the river. You see, we honoured your wishes and spared our clothes. We miss your grovelling speeches. We roll up Russian positions one after another. The hill across the Veta is firmly in our hands by the afternoon. Only the village of Pochtawaja and the bridge are still occupied by the enemy. It has been planned to take the bridge in a swift action, since it is crucial for our motorized units. This time it is someone else's job to attempt this risky undertaking. We'll provide the fire protection. These guys go in forcefully. By nightfall, the bridge and village are cleansed of enemies. We are in charge of guarding the bridge after midnight. This is not without danger, since the Russians are placing well-targeted fire onto the bridge and village. Finally, after a few hours, we are relieved and take positions to guard the northern exit. Pochtawaja is in flames. We hear the crackling of the fires. Cows are bellowing somewhere out in the distance. They must be trapped in their barn and are burning alive. The wind drives thick clouds of smoke toward us. A trail of smoke is over the entire village. The fire glows red. The heat takes our breath away. Every other house is on fire. The cracking of rounds left behind by the Russians can be heard among the sizzling and crackling. We climb over hot debris. The wall of a house collapses nearby. Wounded soldiers are being carried past us. The fires light up a Red Cross flag. The singing of an airplane is above our heads. The 8th of August. It is raining. The trenches that were dug so quickly are full of water. One lies in his dirt hole like a sack. Our uniforms are saturated with dirty yellow water. We lie trembling from the cold and fear in our bathtubs or water caskets. Volley after volley is fired to the other side. There are explosions all around us. They look like the arbor vitae found around the Frankfurt Central train station, trees of life. That is ironic. Death is walking through our lines here. We have 12 dead within half an hour. God damn it. If only at least the rain would stop. I cannot stand much longer looking at the red soup in the holes of our fallen soldiers. I don't like tomatoes, but I do love tomato soup. Disgusting. One could puke his guts out. The same comrades who attacked the bunkers on the Veta yesterday, full of bravery, are now lying ripped apart in their holes. When a comrade receives that final blow ripping his guts out, one should no longer look at him. Whatever follows, does that not belong to him and his heroic efforts? It is ugly, plain awful. I am tired of all that is around me. The regiment led an attack north of the cobblestone road this morning. These brave guys have made good progress, although under great casualties. They took Gatnoye and are near Shulyani at the gates of Kiev. It is too bad that they have left us here. The Russians have adjusted their fire excellently, aiming at both our positions and the road. It is noon and relatively quiet at the moment. They have stopped bothering us with the damn small calibers. They are probably out of ammunition. However, 3 huge ones arrive regularly every 5 minutes. Judging from the size of the craters, they must be coming from railroad cannon, which have demolished this fine road. Our mood is much better. The rain has stopped and even the sun has come out, which makes everything much better. At least we can leave our holes. Someone makes a joke and we laugh. Life does go on. Russian tanks have been announced. I take B position under a burned-out roof, crouched there with a scissor telescope. For 5 minutes everything is forgotten, the artillery fire and the danger. What a few minutes. The Battle of Kiev has reached its climax. A plain stretches all the way to the outskirts of the city. There are only a few outcroppings of trees and small rolling hills in the landscape. The radio towers are clearly visible behind the forest. To the left there are the suburbs of Shulyani and Mykoiska, and the big city with its 850,000 inhabitants, its beautiful churches, and the citadel behind a few trails of smoke along the horizon. Down there is the battle. I see Russian artillery fire around every small forest on the plain. A cloud of shrapnel hangs over a crack in the ground like a ball of cotton. Waffentruppen are attacking a bunker over there. The drama comes to an end when the fire from a flamethrower appear. It is strange to sit up here so far away from the man-to-man battle, so far away and yet so close through this telescope. It is odd to see the death struggle of comrades without my own life being threatened. A scissor telescope is a great device. A little twist of the knob and another individual scene of the brewing battle comes into focus. The red dogs attack a howitzer position. Friend and foe are butchering each other. I can see the infantry lines near Gatnoye. They are installing a machine gun position on the road out of the village. The firewall then rolls alongside the cobblestone road. Grey clouds hover over the Teremki forest. The humming of fighter planes is in the air. The sum of all the individually observed scenes, with their stirring images, truly deserves the name battle. Tramping horses, rattling engines, mud-covered motorcycle messengers, the burning torches that were once houses, the angry barking of machine guns, the wounded who turn their eyes up to the heavens, the recoiling of the cannons' hot muzzles, dark fountains of soil and smoke, the hissing of shrapnel, the humming of shells. Bawling, roaring, crackling, moaning, whistling, heaving, it's the 8th of August, day 2 of the Battle of Kiev. The 9th of August. The morning begins with a mass attack from Russian bombers. I haven't seen anything like this before. At times, there are 40 to 50 planes in the sky at once. I'm automatically driven to think about the futuristic drawings in War of the Future, a magazine that I read years ago. Dominic in the Battle of Kiev. One could laugh if the situation wasn't so serious. Budeni has released his swallows for the Kiev air show. There is a droning and buzzing so loud that one cannot hear oneself think. The Ratas, those agile biplanes, and the Martin bombers attack German positions with bombs and their onboard cannons. For the first time, they are also releasing shells and catapult bombs, which hit the ground before the plane is even overhead. Scheisse, comrades. We must rethink our entire cover strategy. We must learn. We receive orders to attack at around 10 a.m. It smells like trouble. The division apparently got stuck after making good progress yesterday. The roaring of artillery is deafening. 3 groups receive orders to wind their way through the minefield in order to make contact with our overextended front line. My group's task is to reach the Teremki estate by 11:30 a.m. The commander and his adjutant, who arrived from Gatnoye, have already taken position at the estate early this morning. We do not have to hear a speech to know that the passage through the minefield will not be easy. 3 curtains of artillery fire are released over the field through which we have to pass, not to mention the shrapnel, mines and bombers. There is no time for discussion. We pick up our equipment and weapons without saying a word. A moment later, we begin our mission, walking in single file. Without the cover of clouds, the sun burns hot. The mugginess is driving us mad. We bring 2 units along as per our orders, which will be part of an observation post near the front line. These poor guys are carrying such heavy boxes on their backs. One after the other, we work our way back from one trench to the next. My comrade on the left throws his arms in the air. He's been hit. The cannon that was protecting us suddenly breaks apart, a direct hit. A comrade lies motionless on the ground right in front of me, dead. And to my right, a soldier is also shouting for the medic. Just 20 meters to the trench. Please, God, help. We now move off the cobblestone road. Everything was going well up to this point. 4 enemy aircraft then suddenly appear, flying so close to the ground that we can feel the slipstream from their propellers. These Schweine stalk us for about 5 minutes. Why are we throwing ourselves into the mud? They're flying so low just to have a head count. Their sporadic fire does not cause any harm. Our group appears to be too small to be worth a real attack. They turn away and drop their bombs further down the cobblestone road. At the barn, this awful place, we take a break since it is the only source of shade on the entire field. A cigarette is hastily smoked. It is said to calm one's nerves. However, it has no such effect on us. We have a clear view of our path through the mine-infested field, past the shredded forest, all the way to our destination, the ruins of Teremki. The 3 murderous curtains of enemy artillery fire are most intimidating. I suddenly do not like the taste of my cigarette anymore. Scheisse. It is all a bunch of scheisse. Little Arthur is so excited. The tension inside him is so intense that he starts telling jokes. It is well known that quiet and shy guys turn into jokesters full of quick repartee under such circumstances. He has come up with lines that he could not have created otherwise, even with half an hour of thinking. But what does it matter? We have to move on. Orders are orders. They are performed as they are received. My group reaches the Teremki estate at 11:20 a.m. There is not much talk about how we got there. It is a miracle. With luck on our side, we walked past hundreds of mines and crossed an artillery curtain which offered us only small amounts of shrapnel. We have arrived and are in one piece, except for a few scratches. My poor tofu men took much longer. Their backs are bloody from the heavy boxes. How many times during these few kilometers did we have to throw ourselves down on the ground for cover? One is mistaken if he thinks that we could quickly recuperate from the horrors of our march. When it rains, it pours. Shell after shell howls toward us and smashes the pathetic ruins of the Teremki estate. Debris is swirling through the air. Our comrades have organized dugouts in checkerboard style. Our sap position is close to the last house, in the middle of a vegetable garden with half a dozen shredded trees. We have to crawl in order to reach our cover holes. We barely made it into them by the time the sky was suddenly filled with those damn biplanes. They approach in squadron formation from the right of the forest. They fly lower and lower. The machine guns rattle to the tune of the plane's engines. They are good at this, these Schwein. I can see the pilots stretching out of their seats and over the fuselage in order to scan the ground and throw their dreadful hand grenades. My stomach starts to churn. The coffee I drank this morning isn't sitting well with me. They come down even lower, fly over our position, and turn toward the forest. Their red stars on the bottom of the wings sparkle in the sun. Just lay still, very still. My steel helmet is feeling increasingly heavy. How long has it been since I slept? I cross my arms behind my head and lie on the ground with my eyes closed. The soil is pleasantly cool. Damn it, I actually fell asleep in all of this commotion. Yes, I even dreamt. We were on a walk, you and I, Roselle. We were standing on top of a rock similar to our favourite place in Falkenstein. We were overlooking a plain that was filled with smoke and fire. You were leaning against me and started to cry silently. Well, dreams are sometimes weird. Nonsense. My brave Roselle does not cry because of smoke and fire. The enemy ordnances have been ploughing into our position for hours now. The wind drives suffocating clouds of smoke over us. The Reds are shooting with all that they have. Large chunks, small chunks, shells. Their fire is landing very well. So well, in fact, that one can see our dreadful tarpaulins scattered all over. At times, a hand with stiff and cramped fingers or a boot sticks out from underneath them. Ladies, these are your husbands and sons who are lying stiff and torn apart. You are perhaps enjoying the sunny day at this moment, the babble of your children or their sparkling eyes. You have no idea that soon you will receive a letter that renders your life unbearable. Do not think about this. God help me. Do not think about this. We know that the suffering of our wives and mothers is greater than ours here in this downpour of shrapnel. The artillery fire suddenly stops in the afternoon. This is understandable. Even the toughest butcher must have a break for breakfast. I can imagine how they are sitting over there with grins on their devilish faces, black from the soot. I can imagine their smacking while they eat. Let's get back to business, says Comrade Commissar, as their dirty and greasy paws reach for the shells and stroke the cool steel which tears apart the damn fascists. Just wait, you damn bloodhounds. Soon it will be our turn. We use the break from the firing to our advantage. Doors, fences, boards and beams are hauled in from the surrounding area in order to build covers for our holes. Earthen walls are reinforced. Anything capable of catching splinters is arranged around the holes: buckets, barrels, chairs, benches. As we put the final touches on our fortification, the air is all of a sudden filled with the roaring of approaching shells and their impacts. Teremki is nothing but a sea of surging black smoke. The last remaining bricks are being tossed into the air. Heavy Russian shells slam again and again into its ruins. I have counted 243 blows within half an hour. 243 times 500 shards. That makes 121,500 red-hot, glowing pieces of metal which are flying over the ground and which can rip apart everything in their way. Maybe one of you can tell me if there remains a hand's-width portion of space within a 1,000-meter radius that has not been penetrated by the death-carrying iron shards. It is impossible to describe the horror throughout the hours until the evening. I press myself to the bottom of my hole, half mad from fear and horror. Doesn't anyone have a bit of compassion for us miserable bundles of humans who are almost insane and who are holding on with their teeth in the dirt? For God's sake, if it has to be, at least let me die instantaneously. The moaning and the shouting of the wounded are faintly audible through the howling and crashing. You poor guys. Who do you think will be able to help you? The one who leaves his cover will be rattled with splinters like that old bucket up there. It is finally getting dark and quiet after long and horrific hours. Life is coming back to our position. Spades clatter, flares rise into the sky, and moaning and shouting rise from the trenches and holes closest to the front line. Paramedics run out with their stretchers. Groups are sitting together in holes and carve crosses. Fires die down, and every now and then there is a crackling from the burned-out houses and barns. Again and again a whimpering or a cry cuts through like a razor. The 10th of August. The barrage starts up again suddenly in the morning. From one moment to the next, the air is filled with whistling and howling. A fist presses my head into the ground. A hammer slams into the soil with a roar. The earth trembles and the muddy ground buckles until it finally bursts. 6 large calibers came to within 30 meters of us. It smells like mud and gunpowder. If there is still a God in heaven, I am begging him to finish us off. Bring this to an end. Just end it. I cannot take this any longer. Someone amongst us must have gone crazy. He jumps out of the trench, throws his arms wildly into the air and laughs. He finally jumps into the barbed wire and breaks down after being hit by repeated shrapnel as the next rounds of shells arrive. Poor devil, what got into you? I know so much about you. You are married with 4 children. You have not had a vacation in over a year. You had it. It is all in the past now. Damn, I cannot go on like this much longer. And then I go and do something completely crazy. I take a bottle that still has a bit of schnapps in it, sit up on the edge of the trench and take a big sip. I take my time in closing the flask and throw it into the trench of the neighbouring group. I also attached a short note stating, "Are there any bastards there? Please pass this on." The bottle with its little note works wonders. After about 10 minutes it lands back in my hole. Someone added to the note, "There aren't any Scheisserkeller here." Suddenly, a large group of aircraft appears, followed by a wonderful surprise. 3 Messerschmitts are quickly approaching. I don't care about the shrapnel and raise my head to watch. Dogfights, open-air theatre. What's this? The 3 veer off. Are the German fighters wimping out? The Roten Hunde triumph. They come down low, machine guns rattle, and the wounded cry out. This drama is repeated a dozen times this morning. It isn't surprising that a few of the desperate guys who have lost all their nerve take up their weapons and shoot at the cowards in the retreating Messerschmitts. The artillery fire dies down a little around noon, though the Reds continue to fire aimlessly at our position. A delivery of food makes its way toward us. The second one didn't make it. Direct hit. The guy paints a colourful picture of blood, pea soup, and brain. Enjoy your meal. Just take the food with you, comrade. My appetite has disappeared. What assholes these guys are. They still exist. They come and make our lives on the front miserable with their bloodthirsty stories. We are busy enough with our own stories up here. We have left plenty of blood yesterday and today, and do not care what is happening in the rear at the moment. The terrible artillery fire starts up again in the afternoon, and then the most horrible thing happens. There is a sulphurous flame, a deafening explosion, and the beams of our cover are torn to bits. The force of the air presses us against the trench walls. Clumps of dirt cover us. I am still half numb when I push through the shredded beams and climb out. Only then can I see the full picture. The neighbouring bunker, approximately 3 meters from us, has taken a direct hit. I see a large crater which extends all the way up to our dugout. Stinky yellow smoke boils over the area. God damn it! Are they all dead? Most importantly, is he dead? Our dear lieutenant? Half mad, I leap into the crater. Pieces of uniform and limbs are sticking out of the dirt. I start digging hurriedly in the dirt using my bare hands. I grab a hold of Huebner's head, which has been severed from the rest of his body. Finally, I find our little one buried up to his neck. In a mad rush, Rufer jumps into the hole. Within seconds, we are able to free him from underneath the mass of earth. If only he would stop his terrible screaming, our dear little lieutenant. We have never heard him shout so loud before. He only has a few minutes left to live. His lower body and legs are crushed to a pulp. While we try to lift him out of the hole, a shell slams into the ground right next to us in a loud roar. A shower of shards rains down over us. Rufa collapses and the lieutenant's body slides on top of me. He is no longer screaming. A fist-sized piece of shrapnel has smashed into his face. Even in death he has protected me, his best comrade, with his own body. Everything inside of me is numb. A film covers my eyes. I do not care anymore. Even if they demolish the rest of our small group, at least it will be over. Peace, eternal peace. The memories of these hours of horror will no longer torture me. Orders to retreat come in the evening. The division will retreat to the Wetter line in the night and regroup in defensive formation. One order, one cold sentence, which hits us like the strike of a whip. Soldiers on the front understand what it means to take back a piece of land that has been soaked with the blood of comrades. This was hard-earned, metre by metre, under enormous casualties. Under the cover of night, my group, I have 5 men left in my group, feels their way back through the crater field. This is how it must have appeared at Verdun in 1918. The Reds continue their wild firing into our position. However, we are able to reach the cobblestone road by midnight. Nobody is talking, nobody is smoking. As per division orders, smoking is prohibited when aircraft are present. Talking. Everyone has enough to do with his own thoughts and with carrying his equipment. We finally reach Pocztowaja. This place was also badly hit. Some in the group are wounded. I was just about to lie down in a hole to sleep when a comrade approached me. You are ordered to go to the commandant. 2 other group leaders are also there. The old guy salutes us and asks us, "Who will volunteer to return to the front to take our dear Lieutenant Liebertran his cross?" I step forward. The other 2 leave. I almost think they were running. The commandant takes me aside and tells me something that I have already known for a long time. Teremki is probably no man's land, if not already in Russian hands. I decline to take anyone with me on this death ride. The 11th of August, 1941. After the cross is finished, I place it over my shoulder, insert a pistol under my belt, a hand grenade in the shaft of my boots, and off I go. I take the shortest distance directly across the minefield. Damn it, the most direct path is right at the barn on the field. I don't need to mention that the other soldiers thought they were dealing with a maniac, and that the men in the observation posts thought I was crazy. And yet, my mind has become sharper over the past few days. My intuition tells me that the Russians have not yet grasped our latest directional maneuver. They are still laying their fire stubbornly onto our positions that have long since been abandoned. This time there is no fire curtain between the village and me. Everything is going well. The closer I get to the village, the weaker the enemy fire, which eventually completely dies out. There is no one around as far as I can see. The silence is eating at my nerves. Is the Russian infantry going to begin its advance? Damn it. For the first time I am really afraid, really scared. The last thing that I need is for Hans to push a wild boar into his pants. No, I am not going to do that. With my hands trembling, I push the cross into the ground. I then pay him my respects, my one and only comrade, our lieutenant, at his final place of rest, and then start to cry like a child. What would you say to me now, my little lieutenant? Sobbing is for women. Pull your shit together, Hannes. These past few minutes of reflection have really refreshed me. No, little one, you will not see me act like a weeping boy. I am sorry. It has been a bit too much over these past few days. I then start to head back. Unbelievable, Teremki without artillery fire. I didn't think it was possible. It is getting light out. I still have approximately 2 kilometers to cover. Who knows if the Russians saw me, or it was just out of coincidence, but all at once 5 or 6 shells land near me. I throw myself into the dirt and clutch the ground. To the left and right, in front and behind me, trees stand burning from the impact. The howling and crashing in the air is like yesterday, though yesterday I was not alone. Small brisang shells buzz closer. These damn things approach without much warning. They're right here, Ratchbum. They explode, causing shallow craters in the ground. They explode and release thousands of shards that slice anything close by. And then there is a terrible hit. When I try to get up again, I notice that I cannot. My right leg isn't responding. Scheisse, there is a large hole in my pants and blood is running out of it. My hands are also bloody. There is a strange pulling in my face and blood has just started dripping from it. Those must only be scratches, but my leg, damn leg. Man, you cannot lie here and fall victim to those red bastards. There must be a way. And there is. I get a move on under tremendous pain. Who's there at the barn? It is my dear Sepp, and thankfully his sidecar motorcycle. This is when I black out. When I start to wake up, he has only one word for me. Rindvik. This makes me really happy. I know that he said it to conceal his emotions. What a loyal soul. He places me into the sidecar and races back. He finally stops at Pechtawaja. In between the cursing and laughter, he tells me that our troop has taken leave to rest for a few days to the rear of Wassilkow. He has suggested that as a result, I will be able to recover while being with the troops. What a fool, as if we even needed to talk about that. He then digs out his last bottle of vodka from down in his sidecar. It's a real small party this morning. As an extra bonus, we get to enjoy witnessing the downing of 24 aircraft by our invincible Messerschmitts. Sorry that we shot at you yesterday. Oh well, after that my Sepp calls me an ox, and I know that we have become inseparable comrades. I am indescribably happy. For a few hours I am able to forget the fear and distress of the past few days. The 12th of August. We have arrived in Barakti and are joyfully greeted by our comrades. The commander shook my hand in silence, looking deeply into my eyes for a long time. The fact that he did not say anything was the best expression of gratitude for me. Afterward I am bandaged up, which unfortunately cannot be performed without pain. And then the moment which I have been dreading all day arrives. The field doctor has ordered my transfer to the military hospital. One of the guys winks at me and says, "Man, be happy, you get a taste of home." I punch him in the face. The commander sees it and approaches to ask what is going on. I ask for permission to stay with my comrades. He turns briefly to speak with the doctor and then says, "I am unable to deny your request. You will remain here." How wonderful this day is. My stretcher stands in the shade of fruit trees in a meadow covered with flowers. The bees are buzzing and butterflies are playing their games. I am so happy and thankful that I am able to stay with my comrades. Only the hum and thundering from the front and the pain that has now fully kicked in reminds me of these past days. My group has dramatically shrunk in size. We will need each and every one of them for the next campaign. We cannot count on replacements. Was it not my duty to stay with my guys under such circumstances? I think the commander understood this. The 13th of August. I am doing well except for the constant pain. The weather is awesome, and then there are these beautiful letters from my dear Roselle, this brave soldier's wife. The commander looks after me like a father. He gives me eggs, fresh butter, cream and honey. I have been using this time mostly for sleeping, which helps me forget, and we have so much to forget. The 14th of August. Red fighter planes paid us a visit tonight and threw down a dozen or so bombs. This doesn't upset me as much after what I have lived through during these past days. One can hear the thunder emerging from the front as clearly as it was yesterday. Apparently the Russians have managed to establish a strong bridgehead on the Dnepr River. The front is very thin there. Perhaps our break is over? That would be harsh, and mean my transfer to the field hospital. A civilian has informed us that a group of 8 Bolsheviks dressed as German soldiers went into the village to ask for German reinforcement troops in Barakti. Because of this, the strength of the night watch has been doubled. One cannot be too careful behind the front. The 15th of August. The entire division has gone out to battle. The brave regiments march past us on the street. You brave, remarkable lads. Where are all the comrades that went shoulder to shoulder with you to the front when you were on the street the last time? One of the men approaches me on my stretcher to shake my hand. Why not? We have both bled in the drum fire of Kiev. Exhausted, he sits down next to me, drinks from my bottle, eats my ration, and has 10 draws from my last cigarette. He then told me something about the final hours before they were withdrawn from the front. Before we retreated, we laid minefields. The Russians somehow found out, at which point they collected the sick and disabled from the mental homes. The infantry then herded them over the minefields in front of them. It was an extraordinary picture, naked as they were when taken from their beds. They ran in lines toward our positions. Hundreds were torn apart by the mines. Only these losers could think of something so evil, and these guys are our opponent. The numbers of dead slowly make their way to us. The 530th Infantry Regiment was almost completely annihilated and will be filled in with the remainder of the 528th and 529th Infantry Regiments. The 16th of August. The pain is starting to vanish. Thank goodness things are going better. The 17th of August. 3 PK units move out in the morning to secure the village. We receive news that a bunch of troops and partisan fighters were found outside of Kiev. They must have been planning to go through the thin front line to attack our troops from the rear. Other special forces, paratroopers, have landed far to the rear. The village is now encircled in a defensive ring. The 18th of August. I am without pain for the first time and leave my stretcher for a first attempt at walking. I witness the interrogation of partisans in the meadow. A reconnaissance unit arrested a group whom they are now questioning. There are 3 young girls ranging in age from 18 to 20, and 1 boy around 17. They say they were labourers at a textile factory who were let go due to the lack of work. Their passports are too new, and the amount of money they are carrying is too great for labourers. They cave in after 2 hours of interrogation and confess to being partisans. Their mission is from the infamous Major Friedman. They have the following orders. Join a second group of partisans near Wasilkow during the night of August 19th. The second group will bring highly sensitive explosives. The girls will find out the location of HQ here in Barakti and in Wasilkow, which are supposed to be blown up on August 20th, 1941. Wow, we are all really surprised. We were going to be attacked. We also learned something about the organization of their group. They work in mixed groups of boys and girls, mostly students, no larger than 5 per group. Their tasks include the destruction of fuel and ammunition depots, bridges and roads. They also lay out aerial signals. They kill men stationed at outposts and motorcycle messengers. To ensure success, they have a well-established and expansive communication network. When the German troops moved in, competent Red soldiers, mostly commissars, stayed behind disguised as everyday farmers in order to coordinate the work of partisan units. They are now working hand in hand with these terror groups. The mess that has been created behind the front will give us headaches for a long time to come.